We're going to go over and talk a little bit of film right now. And from the Fortunato Film School, we have Joe Fortunato here. And Joe, good to have you. Good morning. How are you today? Sorry, I had you potted down here.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good, yeah. So, we've had you on. We have you on every so often to talk about these classic films. And one of them is, of course, one of the great adaptations from any book. You know, when everyone says the book was better, but I have to say the movie was fantastic. Gregory Peck. We're talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. Let's, for folks who haven't seen the movie, it's been a while. I know it's been on cable every so often, but it really is a classic film. Talk a little bit about it and kind of give a little breakdown of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously, it's one of the great American novels, and yet it's one of the great American films as well. So it is really one of those films that I don't know if I want to say it's better than the book, but it's certainly in the conversation. It stars the great Gregory Peck. In fact, this is probably his signature role of his career. He did win an Oscar for it, and it became such a big part of his persona, playing the lawyer Atticus Finch, who, by the way, that character of Atticus Finch was named the #1 screen hero over the last 100 years of film by the American Film Institute. So, very recognizable character, very recognizable actor, and he wasn't even the first choice. They wanted other people. They wanted Spencer Tracy to play the role, but he wasn't available at the time. And Rock Hudson, who was a big star at the time, was lobbying for the role, and that probably would have been. I mean, in either case, it would have been a very different performance.
Yeah, there were a lot of great performances in To Kill a Mockingbird. And when we talk about I found the book to be better. I mean, and the book is just fantastic. But the courtroom scene with Atticus Finch, it really goes down as one of the great elements of cinema. And we're going back to 1962, so almost 60 years. And to this day, if there's a film that could be just as, even though there are certain parts that are dated, it's very relevant, and I believe I think it might be in 7th, 8th, or 9th grade, it's taught in almost every school, is kids get to read To Kill a Mockingbird, and usually after the book is read, they watch the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the Fortunato Film School series at the Akron Public Library is always good for the whole family and welcome. But in this particular case, I want to encourage the students and English teachers out there who may have read the book in school to come on down and see a little bit behind the scenes of the film. And you're right, that courtroom scene in particular is one of the mainstays of American cinema. And honestly, I really think that's where Gregory Peck wins his Oscar, in that courtroom scene. And it's so dramatic. And for those unfamiliar with the story, it is about a African-American man being wrongfully accused of a crime, and Atticus Finch, his lawyer, defending him in the racist South. And it is very relevant today. In fact, I do sometimes do Fortunato Film School for private organizations or private clubs and such. And honestly, I think To Kill a Mockingbird is the one that's requested the most, simply because it tends to be relevant in today's society.
Joe Fortunato with the Fortunato Film School at the Akron-Summit County Public Library here on the Ray Horner Morning Show. And one thing I remember reading this at the time, because actually it was interesting, because I had read it a couple of times and watched the movie. And as I was watching the movie, it was right around the time when Gregory Peck had passed away back in 2003. And I remember reading in the reviews that there were people, as renowned as the movie is, there were a little bit of, when you're talking about, and you have a film school here, and Roger Ebert, one of the great critics of all time, actually criticized the film because he thought that Gregory Peck's performance, and it was kind of, in a way, white knighting the whole storyline, where it went away from the story of Tom Robinson and would focus more on Atticus Finch, the civil rights attorney, as opposed to the reason for the film in the first place.
Yeah, and of course, I love and respect the late, great Roger Ebert, but his opinion is one that he's not alone on. I mean, that's definitely, I don't know that I would call this film controversial, although it certainly has been, because, I mean, there's been times when some schools wouldn't allow the book to be read because of the nature of the story. And, but still, That's what's great about the film is it engenders this debate about good versus evil versus right versus wrong, black and white, racism, living together, and the character of Atticus Finch definitely has sort of a white knight feel to him. And that's definitely something we can discuss. And for those who aren't familiar how this works at Fortunato Film School, it's very different than just a regular screening. I will say a few words about the film before we start, and then I will do a live commentary while the film's going on, pointing out interesting facts, some production trivia, sometimes some movie mistakes that are always fun to catch. And then afterwards, we'll talk about it kind of like a book club. So these are some of the issues that we might discuss, and it really is up to the audience what they want to. I take the direction of the discussion wherever they want to go.
So give the details on the film school for people who want to attend this weekend.
It is, first of all, let's emphasize the fact that this is free, and it's also free parking at the library. It's at the Akron Summit County Public Library at 60 South High Street down in Akron, downtown. It starts at 2 p.m. on Sunday. The Browns are on a bye week this week, so there's no conflict there. And again, it's free. It's something the whole family can enjoy, and free parking, and we'd love to see everybody down there.
You want to talk about two fun facts about that movie? I just looked this up. It's marks the film debut of Robert Duvall, one of the great actors of the last 50 years, and Alice Ghostley. Now, if people don't know who Alice Ghostley is, her and one of my favorite people, Paul Lynde, got their start together, and they were both basically interchangeable. She was the female Paul Lynde, and Paul Lynde was the female Alice Ghostley. So they had this had a persona, and they talked like this a little bit, and they all came out of that same camp. I think there were New Faces of 52, and so people didn't know. And of course, they were both on Bewitched not long after To Kill a Mockingbird. So people are like wondering, did one of them rip off the other, or what happened? Who was the first person to come out from this? Was it Paul Lynde or Alice Ghostley? But they had that same persona. So that's a weird fun fact I had.
I've discussed this movie a million times, and I've never come away discussing Alice Ghostley and Paul Lynde, and that's a very interesting take, and I love it.
There you go. You can put that in at the end of the film school on this weekend. Well, Joe, thanks so much for joining us here. Again, give the details for people. Like you said, Browns are in a bye week. You have no excuse. Head on down to the Akron Summit County Public Library this Sunday. Give the details one more time. Yes,
it's 2 p.m. Sunday at the Akron Public Library, 60 South High Street, downtown Akron. Free to get in. It's free parking, and we'd love to have you down.
Joe, thanks so much for joining us here, and we look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Joe Fortunato, the Fortunato Film School, going on this Sunday at the Akron Summit County Public Library.